Student, please settle down. Student, those who are standing, please sit down. एटी सब जगह अच्छी देखो बेंच अच्छी तीन तीन जन चार चार जन एडजस्ट हो बेसी just as you know that along with academic we are also making career, means exam is going on for our younger brother and sisters. They are appearing exams, so rather hampering we also need to engage ourselves to this academic session. Okay, so respecting everything because they also need a job. We are already in a job. We will be going to get a job. Okay, so that is why respecting everything, we need to be maintain little silence, by which our session of 2 days will go smoothly. I would like to welcome you all and thank you so much, Professor Manoj Kumar Jaina, all the way from Delhi, traveling. He has completed his seminar 23rd and 24th, and he had taken lots of pain and he has arrived here. You are welcome, brother. That he's my junior, so I am calling him as a brother, and he's a. And I would like to request my colleague, Dr. Priranjan Behera, to manage this today's session. Come. Eight years, Indian. Detail. Ravindra sir को आगे डाकिए. Ravindra
Okay, very good morning and warm welcome to all of you. It's my pleasure to welcome you, and today we'll start the second day and first plenary sessions. It would be more knowledge based and thought provoking. I hope it will be more useful for young student and young academician. So first, I'd like to request and invite Professor Rabindra Kumar Mohanty sir to take the chair on front. He's as yesterday we heard, he's a very eminent, prominent professor in Department of Sociology, Mizoram University. Those who are in the Department of Sociology, they know what is the values and knowledge of sir. And please take the seat, sir. Thank you, sir. Next. Sir, bouquet. Okay. Sir, okay. Next, I would like to request Professor Dr. Tapaswini Palta Singh Ma'am, HOD, PG Department of Sociology, Sambalpur University. He is a very famous sociologist in Western Odisha. Those who are studied in Sambalpur University, even those who are attending All India Sociological Society, they know, ma'am. Please take the seat, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would like to request Professor Nabanit Rath, madam. Ma'am is in online mode. CPGC, Utkal University, Bhubaneswar. Ma'am will attend in online, and he is a prominent sociologist in Odisha. Ma'am, we welcome you on the behalf of Sociology Department, Kalahandi University. We need your inputs and all knowledge you have gained, and young students will use your knowledge to build themselves as a good academician. Thank you, ma'am, for joining in online mode. Next, I would like to request Satip Khara sir. Khara sir, professor, please take the seat on the front. He is a chairperson, Professor Dr. Ambedkar Chair, Keys, deemed to be University of Bhubaneswar. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to request Dr. Pankaj Deep, Head, Dr. Ambedkar Center for Human Rights, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Gautam Buddha University, Uttar Pradesh. Please, sir, take the seat on the front. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to request Dr. Sustri Sangita Mahanti, ma'am, Department of Anthropology, Keys, deemed to be University, Bhubaneswar. Please, ma'am, take the seat. Next, I would like to request Dr. Krupa Sindhu Naik, HOD of Sociology, Keys, deemed to be University, Bhubaneswar. Please, sir, take the seat on the front. Next, I would like to request Dr. Kapila Khamidu, sir, Associate Professor, HOD, Department of Sociology, Central University of Odisha, Karaput. Please, sir, take the seat on the front. Next, I would like to request Ishwar Chandra, sir. Okay, we welcome Ishwar Chandra, sir. Please, sir. Okay. Out. Actually, we are very sorry and apologize because of exam you unable to make it. But okay. Next, I would like to request Professor Rabindra sir to honor Professor Palta Singh ma'am with bouquet and welcome him. And even I request welcome, ma'am. Next, I will request Professor Rabindra sir to invite other dignitaries, those who are in the front. Please give the bouquet and uttarya, which having university logo. Please, student, please give the claps for looking this all eminent sociologist and professor sitting in your front. Thank you, sir. Next, we welcome next our dignitaries and professor Pankaj Deep, sir. It's a please, sir, welcome to Kalahandi University, Department of Sociology. Next, we welcome Dr. Susri Sangita ma'am with bouquet. Sir, please give the bouquet and uttar. Next, we welcome Dr. Krupa Sindhu Naik, sir. Krupa Sindhu, sir. Next, we welcome Kapila Khamidu, sir, HOD, Department of Sociology, Central University of Odisha. And next, our Ishwar, sir, Secretary of Sociology. Please, again we welcome you, sir. Please take bouquet and please, sir. Okay. आइडिया दे दे लेकिन आप नेक्स्ट कौन करेंगे
ଏବେ ସାର୍କୁ କହିଦେଲେ ସେ ସାର୍ କରିଦେବେ ଏଇଟା ସେମିତି ହେଲା ସାର୍କୁ କହିଛନ୍ତି ସାର୍ will complete and he will invite one by one.
Okay. To meet the needs of present without compromise the ability of future. This is the definition of sustainable development given by Brundtland Commission. In that sustainable note, we'll start today's session, plenary sessions, which will give more theoretical, conceptual, innovative ideas to understand today's contemporary topic and today's most alarming topic, that is sustainable development. I hand over this list of plenary professors to Professor Rabindra Kumar Mahanti sir to invite them and take all next discussion and presentation. Please sir, take.
Very good morning. Respected co-chair, Professor Sanjay Khare, Ambedkar Chair Professor at Keys University, Bhubaneswar, distinguished panelists, revered guests, and delegates, my dear students, media persons, and the support staff around. In fact, this is second time I am on the podium in this August gathering, and accordingly consider it as my fourth privilege. 3 privileges I have delineated yesterday, and there is a reason for it, that I am going to lead a fantastic group of distinguished, decent, and very dignified professors on the panel. I know most of them individually, their work and their eminence, experience and expertise. And also, what is so fortunate and fascinating is that someone present here who is heading the department of Center for the Study of Social Systems at Jawaharlal Nehru University, where most of us have been nurtured. And I am the oldest 64 from among them. And it's really, there cannot be anything more proud than this to have Professor Manoj K. Jaina, Chairman, Professor, Center for the Study of Social System, Jawaharlal Nehru University, with us here. Your presence is not only fascinating for us, but also it will help this part of land which is important for us, that Chairman Center for the Study of Social System is present at Bhawanipatna, Kalahandi. And I need not take time on my panelists. You can know them when they open their mouth before you and present the theme that they are going to talk on, the much embraced term sustainable development, well within its limits and limitations. So the thumb rule for this session be declared in the beginning in order to avoid confusions and to have clarities. That we have 7 panelists here and 1 online, and therefore 1.5 hours time. Accordingly, you get around 16 minutes each. But I'll take this freedom to cut 1.5 minutes from each, so that we get 10 minutes for interaction. This is number 1. Number 2 is this, that such a distinguished panel, I feel diffident to give time to them. Nor I am in the habit of knocking the door, ringing the bell, calling them, come back, wind up, finish. Those things I normally do not do, and I will not do here also. And as such, the rule would suggest that they will exercise their self-control and try to make way for others to have their own time in this. And number 3 is this: soon after the presentation of one, there shall not be question answers. All of them will complete their presentations in one go, and then they will be asked questions, comments, clarifications, if any, and accordingly the system will go. And I am sure with such distinguished panel you will not feel disappointed, and I will see to it that you are comfortable for 1.5 hours. Thank you very much. Now, actually, there is a difference between the name given in the list and the new list that is added. Professor Manoj was in this, but he probably needs a better and greater forum for which he has been relegated to the valedictory address, and very important. So now I would request Madam Tattvamasi Palta Singh from Heading Department at Sambalpuri University to take her time. Thank you.
you, Professor Mahanti. Esteemed delegates on the dais, students, colleagues, I am really privileged to be in this forum with the galaxy of intellectuals as my co-panelist chairperson. And it's a great privilege to be here at Kalahandi University. And I'm really thankful to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Sanjay Satpathy, and the PGC Nivedita Nath Madam, organizer Dr. Birendra Suna and his colleagues. It's a great privilege for me, especially coming out from my university routine work and be with my colleagues across the states and outside the state. So it's a rare occasion for me. I am personally thankful to the organizers for inviting me to this forum. So the topic for this national seminar is Social Capital, Indigenous Knowledge and Sustainable Development in India, the Tribal Perspectives. Since yesterday we have been hearing a lot on this topic and many of the speakers have already spoken on indigenous knowledge and sustainable development, linking with social capital. So mine, I have been given a topic on indigenous knowledge in healthcare delivery and primary healthcare services. So precisely I will be speaking on preserving indigenous healthcare knowledge in India, the relevance and challenges for conservation. So as we know that India is predominantly dominated by a number of tribal communities, and Odisha also is one of the top 5 states having highest tribal population. It ranks 3 in Indian context. So the tribal communities of India have rich knowledge systems of traditional medicines. These systems include the broader social capital with the contributions of practitioners, healers, and whose knowledge can be enormously useful. So if they are encouraged to go deeper into their knowledge to enhance their rich culture, it can be with the help of their rich heritable resources and traditional, it will be immensely useful for everybody. So traditional knowledge used by Indian indigenous and local communities is the backbone of their existence, and especially in the key sectors like their food, habitation as well as health. So there are many statistical information provided. More than 1.5 million traditional medicinal practices in India use medical plants for preventive, promotive and curative purposes. So it is the World Health Organization also has stated that the goal of health for all will be accomplished with wide usage of herbal medicines. So the relationship between the traditional medical knowledge and IPR, intellectual property rights, relates to the equitable sharing of benefits arising out of commercial exploitation of such knowledge. So the paper's major argument will be to understand the need for this kind of indigenous knowledge and preserving this traditional medicinal knowledge in Indian context. So yesterday we have heard about Gandhamardan, which the mountain ranges are a rich source of diversity for medicinal plants, and the Botanical Survey of India has reported the existence of 220 plants, 20 plant species of medicinal value, but the local people claim that it is more than 500 species. So whatever may be the reason, these traditional practitioners provide medical facilities to above 50,000 tribal people adjacent the areas, and there are Ayurveda colleges and hospitals on both sides of Gandhamardan, which is surrounded by Bargarh district, and other is Balangir district. So local people have great faith in Ayurveda practitioners, and in many villages Their main occupation is to collect hops and supply them to companies like Dabur and Jandu company are mostly using these tribal hops, and they are supplied by the local communities. So the people's movement have been largely successful, and it has been largely responsible for preserving this rich biodiversity in this region. And this is actually a remarkable achievement by the movement, Gandhamardan movement. The land and the forest resources from being affected by occupant corporate vested interest has been rescued. The movement has been a source of inspiration for various struggles across the state, and this hill is well known for medicinal plants. And recently I had the opportunity to attend a session which is 4 medical healers, practitioners from the indigenous communities, representatives had shared their experiences, that how there is a huge rush to reach out to them for accessing guidance and taking herbal medicines for many serious diseases like kidney problems and diabetics, etc. And there are many successful cases also, and which was also being shared by some of the participants, that how their close relatives have been survived. They have survived because of the traditional healers' suggestions and their medical taking their medicines. So it is not just a story, it is the practice and reality that many of the tribal community people who are helping in the healing process are very successful, and the sharing of experiences was really remarkable. Even in my close relations also, I have come across that very serious disease like aplastic anemia, which is uncurable, and which was the doctors gave up the hope, and this person could survive because of the traditional Ayurvedic medicines. So there are many success stories and which needs to be nurtured. And there is also an example of Utkal Alumni International Limited, which was yesterday was given, and I had the opportunity to do a field work in the late 90s, and for whether the Alumni International Limited should be established in the area or not, while I was in TISS that time. And it was strange that there are the compensation given to the tribal communities was something land against money. As yesterday was pointed out, that also many of them were not interested to sell their lands, but they got compensation money in case instead of the land. As a result, the project was delayed, and they were promised to get job opportunities, etc. But the literacy rate in the Kasipur block was something below 15%. So what kind of job they will get? So they lost their livelihood permanently, and money was spent because of so many familial issues, but those tribal communities were also deprived. Finally, the company was established. So similar stories are many where the local tribal communities are being exploited and they are deprived of their basic rights. And now it has been completely taken up by the Aditya Birla Group, and it is the subsidiary Hindalco Industries Limited, a metals flagship of Aditya Birla Group. And coming back to the indigenous knowledge and social capital, which can save the future. The term was used in sociological writings. Yesterday also we have heard about that, Bourdieu. And however, it was the work of American political scientist Robert Putnam, which actually was the most, his writing was mostly utilized within the health research. And according to him, social capital persists if trust prevails in the relationships, in the interactions. Trust itself is generated in networks of civic engagement via the norms of reciprocity. But somehow this reciprocity, these interactions is being diluted by the vested corporate interests. And both these authors are considered as influential theoretical contributors. And while Bourdieu being a proponent of an individual approach, Putnam having a more collective approach to social capital. So whether social capital is an individual or a collective feature is still debated. Within current health research, social capital is often viewed as both an individual as well as a collective feature and collective initiatives. Although the things still need to be articulated more. And knowledge as social capital is the basic inputs of sustainable development. Knowledge is an integral part of human life, and indigenous knowledge may be a fugitive term and it cannot be expressed in one single definition. But we can differentiate indigenous knowledge from other knowledge on the idea of several attributes exist in the indigenous knowledge. These are different terms. There are different terms used to refer indigenous knowledge. And for instance, we can use local knowledge, people's knowledge, folklores, rural people's knowledge, ethnomedicine, traditions and cultural practices, etc. So indigenous knowledge can have multiple articulations. So there are numerous definitions given by several authors. WHO also defines indigenous knowledge as health practices, approaches, knowledge and beliefs related to plant, animal, mineral-based medicines, spiritual therapies, manual techniques and exercise. It can be singly used or used in multiple contexts, diagnosis, and it can stop the illness and maintain well-being. So, this is in general the relationship between social capital and indigenous knowledge, and there are many challenges of preserving this indigenous knowledge, and it has faced several challenges and misconception also for a long time. The thing is misconception of traditional knowledge, that many people think that traditional knowledge practices have often been disregarded or seen as inferior to modern medicine practices, which is a complete myth. And this dismissive attitude disregards centuries of accumulated wisdom and effective healthcare methods. Lack of integration, the integration and segregation dichotomy still continues, whether we segregate tribal communities or we integrate tribal communities, but they need some kind of nurturing perspectives or nurturing interventions to enhance their indigenous knowledge. So the segregation and integration debate should not be always debated, but there should be something which can benefit the traditional healers to be to excel in their field. So there is a limited recognitions and documentations. Indigenous healthcare practices have often been not properly been documented. Yesterday, one of the speakers had pointed out, and this lack of documentation has contributed to loss of valuable knowledge over time. So it needs to be properly documented, because they follow different traditions, oral traditions, folklores, etc., which can be nurtured and which can be preserved. Traditional knowledge is being exploited commercially. This is also one of the biggest challenges. Traditional knowledge has been exploited commercially without proper consent and benefit sharing with indigenous communities, leading to ethical and legal concerns. I had my fieldwork in Dang district of Gujarat, which is the highest tribal dominated districts in Gujarat. 99% I think almost belong to tribal communities, and they are very rich in herbal medicines, but many of the foreign companies, investors come and take their knowledge without intellectual property right reservations. So these kind of things also need to be taken into account, that how rich knowledge being exploited and taken away by others without due recognition and acknowledgement. And there are things which their knowledge needs to be recognized and validated. Validation is jaruri because it is required because of that people have a misconception that they are very, not researched knowledge, just practical knowledge. So it may not be applicable in all contexts. So it needs to be, validated to give them a more weightage. And this research and innovation in the and legal protection also needs to be given to them. Formulate legal frameworks that recognize and protect indigenous knowledge, develop intellectual property rights, laws that acknowledge traditional knowledge as a community asset and safeguard it from misappropriation and exploitation. And community engagement is one of the most important factors, because they should not be the passive recipients of what they have done. Rather, they should be the active contributors with due recognition that they have done it and they are the contributors. So this community participation and engagement is very much required, and education and awareness. I am not saying that the people should go and educate them, but they among themselves, those who are very senior and professionals and those who have rich experiences should also educate the next generations, and government should facilitate them for such kind of awareness. And there should be curriculum also should have given importance. Our curriculum is very much biased curriculum. The curriculum, one part of it, that how rich is our in this indigenous knowledge and practices, and the students from a younger generation should be oriented towards that and understanding the importance. And ethical guidelines should be maintained, develop regulatory frameworks that ensure ethical use and commercialization of indigenous knowledge. And international collaborations also can happen. It's like Sambalpuri artisans' contributions is globally recognized now, but the real contributors are not recognized. So similarly, the ethnomedicine practitioners and indigenous medicine practitioners should be acknowledged hugely across the globe. And sustainable development can be achieved through the contributions of indigenous medical practitioners. And public health integration, I am not saying that integrating tribal knowledge with them, but now government has taken initiative by posting Ayush doctors, etc., those who are promoting the Ayurvedic medicines even in the government hospital setup. Such kind of initiatives should be taken, and job opportunities should be there for the traditional health healers and practitioners so that it can expand. So with this, I think I should not take much time. I'll take just 1 minute, that addressing the fallacies and managing indigenous healthcare practices and social capital within the primary healthcare framework requires a concerted effort, consolidated effort from policymakers, healthcare professionals, communities, researchers, and other stakeholders. So it should not be, the separation, segregation, dichotomy, but rather it should be a consolidated efforts to promote the traditional healers and their efforts. Thank you very much.
Actually, I will not shuffle between the mic and my seat chair here, because the net result is going down to some 5 minutes. I will not do that. I will sit from here. And actually, there is an amendment to the council suggested. Please forgive me and pardon me. Unless otherwise necessary, individual is the slave of the system. So therefore, I cut your timing from 15 minutes to half of it, 7 minutes, because we are running very late, and organizers wanted this. Under painful necessity, I have to announce this, although I do not subscribe to this. We are helpless, so I think rest of the panelists will be fair to others and will abide by this particular amendment. Now may I call upon Professor Satwit, Chair Professor Ambedkar Chair at University. Take his time.
Johar, Namaskar, good morning. Learned speakers on the desk, learned participants there. I am very grateful to the organizers, Dr. Birendra, the chairperson of the sociology department, the vice chancellor, all of them, for giving me this opportunity to say something before you. And Sir said that meanwhile the time has shrunk from 15 minutes to 7 minutes. So that reminds me of something like the diet. You have Coke and you have Diet Coke. So my presentation will be a bit of diet presentation or something of that sort. So I'll try to present whatever is in my mind within this brief time. It will be just a couple of key propositions. So without much ado, I'll start my propositions. The title of my presentation is Cutting the Gordian Knot of Tribal Development, Shift from a Binary to a Continuum Approach. Okay, Gordian knot, I hope all of you probably will be not something that is very entangled. So how to cut that, how to get out of that. So the first proposition is the limit of the binary and the potential of the continuum approach. So I will give an example. My question is, can we use the terms state, tribe, development in the singular or plural? Because the state government is also a state, the central government is also a state, a constable is a state, and the prime minister is also a state. So this is just to say that instead of having a monistic and singular view of state, tribe, and development, can we have the pluralistic view? Secondly, next I'll bring in the continuum approach, and my question is whether it is mandatory to use these terms exclusively either synchronic or diachronic manner, because the state yesterday and the state today is of course not the same, because the state before the FRA and the state after the FRA, surely it will have a different images. So this is moving in a diachronic manner. So this is my second proposition. So what I am proposing is that if the tribal development is a Gordian knot in the sense that can we have some gain without much pain? Because I am referring to the mining, displacement and all these things, which are the pain to get the gain of development. But the moment we change the definition of development from a monistic to even pluralistic, the whole argument will acquire very different characters. So I'll give one after another examples in education, because I was quite some time in the education, so I'm aware about the binary, the tussle in the education historically, the Anglicist and the Orientalist debate. I think many of the Macaulay, if you, those who are in education, they are well aware about the debate around Macaulay's time. Of course, there is more to it than sees the eye. I must, from my research, I will say just one proposition, that Macaulay's intention was not bad. Many people think it is bad, but his intention was not bad. So this is just to give an example of the binary tussle in the education sphere. The tribal development sphere, what comes to my mind is the binary example is the debate between the warrior Elwin and Gurye. So one is advocating one type of approach, another is advocating another type of approach. My next proposition is that what kind of view we have of tribal development, and I am Ambedkar chair professor, so many things I can link with the Ambedkar's. Ambedkar's view is about constitutional style. Constitutional style is the middle path, and you can if you just reflect a little bit, you will see that the modern liberalism is based on middle path. For example, I'll just give one example. Individuals have fundamental rights subject to reasonable restrictions. So it's neither this way or that way, it's somewhere in the middle path, and middle path of course reminds us of Buddha. That's the middle path. So I am saying that unless we take a middle path, we cannot introduce the term continuum, of course, because continuum will be somewhere in the middle, it won't be in the either side. I'll give two examples of how the tribal development is possible without substantial pain by taking the middle path, which is the avoiding the extreme. One is the example of civil partnership with the forest department, the non-forest land as a possible avenue. Well, I found it interesting that about 76% of land under the forest department is declared non-forest land by the forest department. So you can see there is a huge potential there. It's not a forest, it is non-forest by the forest department itself. And the report, annual state of the, I think the forest report, which will be there in the internet itself. So there, the partnership between the tribals and the government and a third partner, somebody, the capitalist, because we are in the age of capitalism. So this is one example where the middle path of development can happen. My second proposition is ecotourism. Ecotourism, what is happening is that it is a partnership between the state, and state here doubles up as a capitalist also, because the initial capital expenditure is borne by the state, but ultimately the ecotourism sport is managed by the tribals. They are given some kind of training before the ecotourism sport starts. And see, here there is a huge potential. And here I'll try to link with our standard academic discourse. In the standard academic discourse, the virtue is always powerful. Now, it was interesting that I came across somewhere that virtue literally means townspeople, burg. So literally means townspeople, and townspeople have been always more powerful than the rural people. So the rural people must have something that the town people need, so that there is a balance of power between the rural and the urban, or the virtue or the proletariat. That USP of the rural, and in this context that USP of the tribal would be the tourism potential, because the urban people cannot have those kind of nature. And the image of the tribal, there are various kinds of image of tribal, but one image is there that they are in the lap of nature, and this kind of image can be capitalized by the tribals for a middle path of development. This is my second example. There are two examples which I had given, second examples of the middle path of development. So in short, I'll be probably finishing even before my time. So my proposition is that if we follow a pluralistic continuum approach to development, and which will lead to a middle path of development, we can almost bypass a lot of these theoretical vicissitudes which happens when we take a strict binary approach, or academic extremism, we can say. And I have just this much to say. I'm so sorry, I have nothing more to say. So with these words, I might stop here. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Probably he could set the stage, if I can say it in one sentence, and that is very meaningful. And now may I call upon Dr. Pankaj, who is Gautam Buddha University Ambedkar Center, Head Department.
Good morning to all. It is my pleasure as well as honor to speak on the travel issues in my own land, which I have gained from the national level, particularly from JNU, and I am sharing here in my own village like this. So I am thankful to Dr. Suna, who invited me to share my thought. And my theme would be, it is the project sponsored by Government of India, and I have studied three tribal districts, that is Mayurbhanj, Sundargarh and Malkangiri, and from there I am sharing the gist of the finding, because of the time constraint I am not able to go through the background of the study, and probably if I would have been share the background of the study, it would be easy for the audience to understand what could be the problem, what could be the solution, and how the tribal is in between the state and the people, how they are struggling to get their entitlement which is prescribed by the constitution. As I said, Professor Khora, I'll continue from that full stop. As he suggested, there will be a middle path. I do agree there will be a middle path, but who would lead this middle path? Whether it is state would lead the middle path, or it is the people at large. So briefly, can you please reflect the title of this talk? So I may reflect little bit 10% of my observation, that is the inclusive governance and inclusion of the indigenous people, the issues of depletion and dependencies, and the sustainable livelihood. How the depletion leading to the dependency of the tribal on the state, and the other hand, state is unable to address the issues of livelihood, therefore there is a poverty, therefore there is a malnutrition, and therefore there is many things coming out from the poverty. So just I am sharing with the gist. as because of the time constant. One is there is a cultural genocide and cultural protections go hand in hand in the Adivasi areas and Adivasi people. What I mean to say cultural genocide is that it is the state, as per the constitution and the 5th schedule provision, state is to protect the distinctive culture of the tribal as well as the direction of the constitution to the government to preserve, protect and development and they nurture the tribal culture and tribal livelihood, which are supposed to do by the government through different affirmative actions and policies like FRA, 5th schedules and many more program and policies. I am not going into that, but in practice state is also playing a greater role in destroying the tribal culture side by side by a forced displacement of tribal in establishing big dam industries so and so, which the cause of the depletion of the forest and probably the livelihood of the tribal depend upon the forest. The modern technology and modern way of earning the means of livelihood probably tribal are not using the way you are using it in terms of technology, in terms of education, in terms of going to the tertiary sector. Second, one way state is giving the protection through different policy and packages, which is the directives of the Indian constitutions. But on the other hand, state is also one of the main force which is destroying the tribal life and livelihood directly or indirectly. Therefore, being a student of political science, I may say this is the double talk of the state. One way state is giving the protection, the other another way state is main force of snatching the life and livelihood of the tribal. Second point, the resource alienation of the Adivasi and the resource aspiration. The resource alienation of the Adivasi and the resource appropriation by the state in the Adivasi's area. The livelihood essentially revolve around the resources like forest, land, water, labor, that is jal, jungle and jamin, and skill, knowledge, assets, so and so. But within the depletion of the natural resources, mainly forest, tribal are being alienated from their old age traditional resource of living. Furthermore, with the adoption of the new economic policies, as Professor Khora mentions, the new economic policy of liberalization and globalization, which push the tribal into the edge, and it is one of the force which is marginalizing the tribal from the mainstream society in terms of the any development indicator. Therefore, I would strongly agree with him that there must be a middle path, because we cannot stop the industrialization, we cannot stop the modernization, we cannot stop the development, but not at the cost of the one section of people, that is the tribal. So how could you fix a balance it? One way you have to provide the facility which is being prescribed by the Indian Constitution and which they are entitled to. Second, at the same time, as per the government provision, by the name of the public interest, you are taking the land from them, which is obvious. Without land, how can you develop the industry? How can you develop so and so? Therefore, why should a particular community be compromising and giving or facilitating land for others' development? Last but not the least, the concept of eminent domain. Who is the owner of the resource, and whether it is the government or people at large. So right now what the law is prescribing, it is the government. Therefore the concept of eminent domain has to be changed and it has to be given to the people at large. That means since our development is people centric, supposed to be, and one section, that is the tribal, is compromising for the other the masses, and instead of gaining they are losing everything. Therefore, again I come to this point, how we can make the balance. So what could be the issues? How you can address? It is not paracetamol and you'll eat and the fever will come immediately in the next morning. It will take time. But taking an atom, if you are taking the right atom, probably today, tomorrow, or day after tomorrow, or 10 year, 5 year, the problem could be addressed in a rational manner, and the travel could share their fair equality and fair proportion so far as their entitlement is concerned. So first we'll reflect a little bit the problem. So the absence of Adivasi voice in the both the design of the policy as well as the education. The question will come as far as the design of the policy is concerned. Probably we have the adequate representation both in the state level as well as the parliament level. So the question of participation in the design of the policy is under carpet. I mean to say, those who are present in the legislature really are they participating in the formulation of the policy? That is the question mark. Therefore, in a democracy, you can say representation and participation. They are two different things, and both are correlatively related to each other. Without representation, you can't participate it. Number one. Number two, simply representation does not ensure your participation. Therefore, focus will be both, but representation lead to participation. That means there must be a fair, equal participation in the public institution. Take the example. In Odisha, probably more than 12 or 13 state universities are there. So far the participation is concerned, fair, equal participation, I quote unquote. So tribal are probably quarter of the population of the state. So in that ratio, out of 13, there must be 4 vice chancellor from the tribal community would be there in the state. Where is the fair participation? So that has to be rethinking. That has to be given emphasis by the stakeholder as well as the community like you, me, people. Second is the, as I said, aspiration and aversion of vicious cycle of state and non-state violence. I must not support the violence, whether it is state violence or non-state violence. Both are harmful for the progress. Therefore, undoubtedly, violence is coming from both sides, state as well as the non-state actor. So, it is very easy to say that non-state violence like the Naxalism so and so is is a one-day emergence, or it is coming out of the frustration of the development, or it is against of the state. There is a long way development of this anti-state mentality, and we should look into both short-term and long-term investigation. Short-term maybe the apply of the force, but force will not address this issue. Therefore, we have to think again and again what could be the possible factor why this is happening so and so. As I said, the participation is much more important because I have a lot to say, but because of the time constraint, I am cutting it short. But I do not know when I am cutting it short, it will making sense or not. So tribal development must draw its strength from the local resources, indigenous knowledge, which tune with the human right and resource use justification. Tribal knowledge must be nurtured and developed with the modern technology. Example, they know the art of leaf stitching, mushroom cultivation, honeybee cultivation. That has to be modernized, and state should sponsor. Not only sponsored, also do the marketability. There are various government schemes to nurture this indigenous knowledge and professions. But as I have studied the 3 districts, I would not say it is totally failure, but almost it is failure. It is most of the cases, it is the paperwork and the bureaucratic behavior of the state, the facility or the public policy is not able to realize its objectives. Next is the when you are talking about the policy objectives, I would say repeatedly, participation is must. Therefore, stakeholder participation, you have to institutionally arrange for their participation both at the level of the design of the policies, at the level of the implementation of the policy, and you have to look its outcome. Then we are talking about PESA, FRA. I do not know the other district, but as far as generalization concerned, I have studied 3 districts. PESA is almost it is a formal legal provision to maintain the file. And FRA, I have studied the Kalahandi also. So far as FRA is concerned, it is not up to the mark. It is very easy to say not up to the mark, but what is the problem? The problem is, again I say, the travel is nowhere. Travel is nowhere, both in the execution or second thing, when you are assessing the policies, it must be in the public domain. What are the problem that you have got through? So I may not have more time to go, but I have issue to share with you. I can share other than the next. So the corrosive disadvantage is harming the tribal people and their fertile functionings. It accentuates their suffering and breed the disadvantage. So disadvantage breed the disadvantage. So I would arguably say that it is the carefully careless by the policymaker, planners, public authority and the administrator. They ignore the tribal problem consciously. It is not a natural thing, no, it is happening. And the outcome is failure of the collective actions in dealing with the tribal problem to achieve the desired goal, to bring them into the mainstream society. It is the commitment failure of the Indian state, as Indian constitution prescribed various provision to incorporate and accommodate the tribal people, and it is being doing through different affirmative actions and policies. But so far as the outcome is concerned, the ratio of failure and the ratio of success, if you compare, the ratio of failure is over dominating by the ratio of the success. Therefore, state has to rethink about it. So what could be the probable corrective measures? It is not the panacea, or it is not the paracetamol I'll give in the Kalahandi University to have the success. This is my suggestion. So first, since state is revolved around the people and our development is revolved around the people, therefore when we are talking about the development of the tribal people, they must be in the epicenter of the development in terms of as I said, when we are talking about the policy designing, we are talking about policy implementation. Therefore, they must be the epicenter of the policy making. And again question will come कि भाई हमारा 131 लोग बैठे हैं पार्लियामेंट में और प्रोबेबली कितने लोग बैठे हैं 57 लोग बैठे हैं भुवनेश्वर में कर क्या रहे हैं. So then there are questions. Are they incapable to participate in the decision making, or they are not providing the fair opportunity to participate in the decision making process? So far as my study is concerned, I have also studied the Odisha Assembly. Thank you. I am also studied the Odisha Assembly. So because of the time scarcity, I am not able to cover up all the issues which are supposed to cover. Thanking you all.
I guess so. No. A very good morning to one and all, on the dais and off the dais. Am I audible to all of you? I have only 5 minutes to speak, so please kindly listen. Give attention to this presentation. So my whole topic is very different. We do understand the present crisis as in climate challenges that we are facing, and we do understand the importance and significance participation of our indigenous knowledge in the form of creating or having a good future or having a sustainable future. That is the whole theme of our this seminar, how we can make a sustainable future taking different kind of approach. So my approach is completely, I can say it is a bridge between the traditional knowledge system and the contemporary documentation system. So the topic is preserving indigenous knowledge of water and soil management and a natural language process approach. NLP is very new to the field of, especially in the social science, rather it is a computer science approach, where it is a technology where we use different kind of source of information and club together so that it can be repository. The creation of repository is very, very important in today's world, be it giving acknowledgement to the community person or the people who are giving information, be it to be used in the scientific research. But the main point is to have the knowledge documented properly and use that in the multiple purposes. So I have taken Langiasora as one of the community, those who are very known for their traditional knowledge of soil and water management because of their terrace cultivation practice, and how we can utilize this particular knowledge system and capture it using NLP as a method and keep or address the crisis that we are facing today of the climate change. And in this climate change, one of the biggest issue is soil and water management. As I said, I had actually prepared a PPT. The people, as we know, the Langia Saura is a subgroup of Saura. I do not need to specify that group, but it is one of the oldest population, and their language belongs to the Austroasiatic family, which is again is a very popular group of language family, and they are known as the custodian of knowledge system because not only for their land and water management practices, as well as their folklore and their belief system and the living style, which is aligned with the nature, is very, very potential for our present to address our present crisis. So in this situation, the significant contribution we can say that environmental challenges make Langiosora indigenous knowledge is very crucial, and reliance on the rain-fed agro-ecosystem amplified in the importance of their practice, which we can capture and document using NLP as a method. There are many literature review so far has been done. I will not go through that, but one of the major field we can say is as in like Gadgil, who has said how important the indigenous knowledge and the environmental relation with the people, how their culture has been built based on their environment, as well as how this knowledge need to be documented properly as per the Fernandez theory. And recently in 2020 and 21, the form of NLP, the Natural Language Processing Unit, has been identified as a good way to capture the indigenous knowledge practices that can be utilized in a scientific method, because most of the indigenous knowledge are always in quote unquote it is a traditional knowledge, is not a scientific part. So unless we document it scientifically, we utilize this knowledge in the scientific process, we cannot say that this process is like, usually it is only confined to the social science subject, hardly it goes to a medical science. So the documentation, as our previous speaker madam says, कि outsider people like the foreigners, they used to come to different tribal area and they take all this information and utilize it in the creation of medicine or any other kind. And because of our unawareness, other party are taking all the credit. So the process, I have less time, I know. I'll go directly to the NLP process, where there are 4-5 practices. So one of the practices that, as we are aware that fragileness of traditional knowledge and the practice and the oral tradition, because it is within the community people, whether it is language dying or the lifestyle is changing, the knowledge is always in the alarming stage. So the innovative approach is to have a device or have a process to document this information, that is the NLP, that helps to bridging the gap between the wisdom, the traditional wisdom, and the contemporary documentation process. This helps us to have a conservation of oral narratives. For example, utilization of this NLP techniques, it interpret capabilities to create a comprehensive repository which can utilize to create a knowledge hub or an information hub that can be utilized in a various way. And this oral knowledge or repository can transmit and transcend that framework limitation inherent the oral transmission, ensuring the perpetuation of indigenous knowledge. Indirectly, this can lead to cultural heritage safeguarding. So addressing this climate change, how the indigenous knowledge as a solution which we can get from the Langia Sora as an example that can be captured. This capturation or this documentation from the various person, like the people who are giving orally this information, even the pictures can be taken as in it can be converted into text. This process enables that text to text, oral to text, then picture to text. Then there are certain things like video to text. So this NLP helps. You can collect data from various sources and convert into the text. As I think the AI technology that today's world is like developing and emerging in a very high speed, the NLP can enable our knowledge system to develop other kind of scientific method to help to preserve our indigenous knowledge as well as to challenge the present crisis of climate change. This is the presentation. Thank you so much.
You have been fairer to all of us. May I now promote Dr. Krupa Sindhu, heading Department Case.
Very good morning to all. It's a great privilege to me to have a chance to discuss about my thought and belief system about my PhD topics. As I know, it is talking about the development of India, sustainable development. My topic is the girl child rights status, sociological understanding of tribal girl children of Odisha. When we're talking about the tribal rights, participation, indigenous knowledge, many people are speakers of the previous, they have discussed many more things. But things is that how much people are participating. If you divide the society two ways, one is men, another is women. Now, how many women are participation in different aspects. So before going to that, I want to just start what is the rights of the child, because my topic is the rights of the child, which is come under the UNCRC, United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Child, which is started in 1989, where we got 4 rights: the right to survival, right to protection, right to development, right to participation, which is very important for any child who is take birth in this world. Without participation of the women in this world, nothing can be possible. That is why I take into account the participations of the women in different forums, which is very, very significant for the development. So, as we know, the women participation in all aspects is very negligible. Why it is negligible? And how it is they are neglected from different aspects. If you see the girl child participation in different aspects, from the very beginning they have faced so many problems, like they are difficult to survive in the society, because we are not allowed to survive in the society because of there are very traditional belief system. So far the sociological perspectives, I can say the girl child is taken as a burden for the family, which is still today it is prevailing all across the India. Whereas the participations of the, unless and until the survival is undertaken, then how can it will be, protection will be taken place. Protection is very much essential for the any girl child all across the India, which is also very negligible in every status of the society, every aspect, educational field, any kind of social issue, you can see they are not protection and not participated. So this is how the problems of the half of the people are not participating in the developmental process. That is why I can take some of the important aspects related to the children, particularly the girl children. Basically, if you see the female infanticide, family infanticide, which is very prevalent all across the India, even though after 75 years of independence in India, which is very significant for everybody for think of us. So far the child marriage is concerned, it is related to the indigenous peoples. Even though today, from the 2001 census, more than 60% girls are married before the age of 18, which is a very important thing to think about it, how to maintain all sort of things and how to involve in the developmental process. Another important thing is malnutrition. Malnutrition also prevail in the indigenous peoples, which is very, very important issue for the health of these tribal peoples. Another important thing is exploitations of the girl child. Particularly girls are exploited in different process, different way. For overall aspect of the involvement and participation of the children or the women in the development process is very significant. So I take as a model of KISS, Kalinga Institute of Social Science, which is one of the model of the society. You can say it is applicable all across the globes. So around 60% women are, 60% girls are getting education from KISS, which is the one of the model for the all over the educational institution and all over the Indian society as a whole. This I can say, if you are not participate the half of the people who is neglected in the society, then we cannot say talking about the development. This much I can say. Then only, unless and until we are not given privilege and facility for the participation, involvement and process of development, then we cannot say it the major development can be possible. That's I can say in my conclusion speech. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Now, may I request Dr. Kapil, heading department in the Central University of Odisha, to make his presentation.
2 minutes more to 12. A very good morning to all. Respected chair, co-chair, all the panelists, distinguished faculty members from different institutes, and my dear students, and the faculty members of the Department of Sociology, Kalahandi University. I take this opportunity to speak about school, university, institute, and how they are promoting the indigenous knowledge. In fact, I was thinking to speak on this topic, but I have changed my approach after going through the abstract volume and the kind of speakers we have at my paper, and I will be speaking particularly targeting the audience of large section of the students, those who are here. I know the scholarship of each and every faculty members and the distinguished professors, those who are here. So my presentation will be specially student targeted. So before starting my presentation, may I know, I would like to ask only one question. May I know how many students are representing from tribal society here, tribal community here? Can you please raise your hands? Tribal. Please raise your hand properly. There is nothing to say. Yes, few students are there. And also I have another question. Please. And do you feel how many of you are thinking of yourself as the indigenous community? Indigenous. Please raise your hands. Indigenous. See, I'll clarify the doubt. So we need to understand whenever you are discussing about the indigeneity, indigenous knowledge or traditional knowledge, we need to understand about the whole framework about this seminar so that you can take away something from this seminar. Since last 2 days you might have discussed a lot of things and acquired a lot of knowledge about this, but for the students I will be having very pinpointed discussions about the what is indigenous, the etymological meaning of indigenous, definition of indigenous, who are the indigenous people, and what is indigenous knowledge that we generally found from health, medicines, education, forest, agriculture, soil, water, livelihood, survival techniques, various types of low-cost technology, and so many diverse topic we can derive the indigenous form of knowledge. And also I will be speaking about the promotion of indigenous knowledge, how the school, university and cultural institutions, they have been engaged in promoting the indigenous knowledge. And the tribes and social capital, all you know, and we have been discussing, and I will be throwing a light on this, then I will be having a concluding remark on this. So let me begin with the word indigenous. The word indigenous has several meanings like native, local, homegrown, original, aboriginal, etc. In that context, we all are indigenous, but we need to understand we are indigenous to what? We are not from any other world. We are from this earth and we are sharing this common culture and common environment. So many things in a common we are sharing. But in what context it made us compelled to define a word or conceptually the term like the indigeneity or indigenous, that is important. The word indigenous means native to the land, originating in and characteristics of a particular region or country. Native indigenous people are ethnic minorities who have been marginalized as their historical territories become part of a state. So let me begin with the etymological meaning of the definition of indigenous. The word indigenous derived from the Latin word, its etymology meaning is native or born within, literally from born within of a particular community or particular place. According to its meaning, in common English use, in given people, ethnic group or community may be described as being indigenous in reference to some particular region or location to which they trace their traditional tribal land claim. In other terms, used to refer to indigenous populations are aboriginal, native, original, first and hereditary honors in indigenous law. The use of the term peoples in association with the indigenous is derived from the 19th century anthropological and ethnographic disciplines that Merriam-Webster dictionary suggests or defines as a body of persons that are united by a common culture, tradition or sense of kinship that typically have common language, institutions and beliefs, and that often constitute a politically organizing group. So the definition of indigenous, the legal definition of indigenous have changed over time to reflect the changing perceptions of the people within the framework of conceptualization of indigenousness. There is no single universally accepted definition of the term indigenous people. However, the four most often invoked elements are a priority in time, the voluntary perpetuation of cultural distinctiveness, an experience of subjugation, marginalization and dispossession, and also the self-identification. So who are the indigenous people? The indigenous people have been denoted primitive, savages or uncivilized. These terms were common during the heights of European colonial expansion, which India was also part of the European colonialism, but still continue in modern times. According to International Labour Organization's Convention on Indigenous and Tribal Population held in the year 1957, and Article 1 mentions that attempts were made to define indigenous population. It is that the convention applies to members of a tribal population whose social and economic conditions are at a less advanced stage than other sections of the nation state and have their own customs and traditions. So this is the definition of the International Labour Organizations. The World Bank has described that indigenous people can be identified in particular geographical areas by the presence in varying degrees of the following characteristics. They are close attachment to ancestral territories and to the natural resources in these areas, and also the self-identification and identification by others as a member of a distinct cultural group. An indigenous language often different from the national language, presence of customary social and political institutions, and primarily substance-oriented production. The historical continuity may consist of this continuation for an extended period, reaching into the present of one or more of the some of the following factors. Those are the occupation of ancestral land, or at least or a part of them, common ancestry within the original occupants of these lands, culture in general or in specific manifestations, in religion, living under a tribal system, membership of an indigenous community, dress, means of livelihood, lifestyle, etc. And also the language, residence in certain parts of the country or in certain regions of the world are some of the factors to identify the indigenous community. Then what is indigenous knowledge? According to UNESCO, the local and indigenous knowledge refers to the understanding, skills and philosophy developed by societies with long histories of interaction with their natural surroundings. For rural and indigenous people, local knowledge informs decision making about fundamental aspects of day-to-day social life. Then, the indigenous people of the world. Who are the indigenous people? Yes. There are over 350 million people in the world. As per the recent sources, they are termed as the indigenous population. Here in Odisha, we have 62 number of tribal groups, and some of them are still thriving. There are very few numbers of more tribal groups. They are ascertaining the tribalhood status, but maybe because of the political dilemma, they are not being considered, or they have not been made in the list of the scheduled tribe, and they are not being considered as the indigenous people. So we came to know about some information about what is indigenous and what is indigeneity and who are the indigenous people. And see, the indigenous knowledge is a very peculiar form of the knowledge that has to be recorded or documented. And the indigenous people, are they writing their history in the form of the documentation of their knowledge, or who are writing? And if I am an indigenous person, I know myself better than somebody else will know and define myself. So who are preserving and who are writing the knowledge, and what is the knowledge, what is the system of our preservations, and what is the status of the preservation of the indigenous knowledge system in India. And particularly here in India, we have been preserving and promoting our traditional knowledges, but how accurate it is and how far the truth, we are exploring it from the diverse sources. There are so many cultural institutions and educational institutions. We have been dealing with this problem of the indigenous, and more recently, the NEP 2020, it focuses both on school education and also in the higher education in promoting and preserving the traditional knowledge or indigenous form of the knowledge. That is yet to, this is the very early stage, never before. The step has been taken, but special emphasis has been given for preservation and promoting the indigenous knowledge. Our museums, our libraries, the civil society groups, organizations, and there are few like Anthropological Survey of India, Indira Gandhi National Culture and Arts, and there are also several institutions and organizations trying to promote the indigenous traditional knowledge in the form of the song, dance and music, and various archives. They have been preserving and promoting the indigenous form of the knowledge of their specific area. And we know an active society, and that is the active civil society, that can create social capital and trust, cooperation over the ethnic, religious and the other divisions, inclusiveness, and they can promote the peace and harmony between the sections of this tribal community or the indigenous community for the sustainable development through this social capital. And what is required in this context, that Indian tribal situation is very, very peculiar in the context that the development of social capital, which helps them to their learned capacity and to motivate them for acquiring a better life. But why we call the different, why we differently use the social capital for the tribes, and why we distinguish from the tribes and non-tribes? There are peculiar characteristics that we need to understand. And the social capital through some of the concepts like bonding, bridging, linking and identifying, which have been linked through education, income, opportunities and civic engagement, which has been discussed by sociologists, and that has to be applied in the context of the tribal and indigenous community, and we have to explore. That is what it is needed, and for that we need an approach. For my understanding, our approach should be holistic to preserve and promote the indigenous knowledge, and also we need to have an exploration of diverse sources of existence of knowledge, tolerance towards diverse form of knowledge and its documentation. We need to have the acceptance, ability to observe and accept the various form of the knowledge, because we do sometimes, our society is so much diverse. It's just like a mirror. If we break the mirror, we can see the reflection of our own face. So in our society, wherever we go, we find the diversity. Indian society is well known for its uniqueness and diversity. In this diversity, we need to have a rational approach to respect the knowledge of each community, each group. No knowledge is superior, or there should not be subjugation and domination of the knowledge. That is what it is important, and it is needed to be accepted, and also it needed to be have a systematic documentation. Thank you for taking more time. So I will not be speaking more, and I will be summing up with these few words. Thank you. It's no, it's over, sir. Thank you.
Not the least is Dr. Ishwar, nice champion of champions.
Thank you, sir. Last but not the least. And today is basically an important day for all Indians. The Constitution Day celebration is going on everywhere. So congratulations to everyone for the whole Constitution Day. So basically my topic is tribal development, state and civil society, and so I'm working last around 17 years on this topic, and basically identity and livelihood perspective, different perspective they have, but many say different theoretical, but I try to develop the identity perspective and the livelihood perspective, how the tribal movement, particularly Nyamgiri and Kasipur, I'm working with them. I have did my PhD and still I'm working with them also. So I'm not saying the presentation here. Yesterday I raised the questions to everyone, development for whom and who are getting the benefit of development. That's my major discussion today. In undivided Koraput, particularly I belong to Koraput and part of nearby Kalahandi. Development for whom? Basically the government initiated development for those who are the marginalized, poor section of the society, everyone. But who are getting the benefit of development? For example, in Malkangiri we have a Balimela hydropower project, many of you know. 211 villages displaced from that area. And where they settle, government, they don't have any record. Number two, Upar Kolab hydropower project we have in Koraput. 167 villages displaced from that area. 2 villages rehabilitated near Kotfar. Upar Indravati near to Kalahandi. Upar Indravati hydropower project. 147 villages displaced. Not a single village rehabilitated. Where they gone? The question mark. Again, we have a Nalco, around 24 village displaced from Damanjadi, not a single village rehabilitated somewhere. Sunaveda Aeronautics Limited, we have a 27 village displaced where they are not a single village rehabilitated. And again, we are coming to Kasipur and where the people they have gone. One of the example in my field work, one of the family they have displaced 3 times in the lifetime. First they displaced for Upper Kolam hydropower project, they settled Indravati, and when the Indravati project would happen, they again displaced and they settled in Kasipur, and again they displaced from Kasipur. Yes, so development who we are thinking that, development who are making policy for that the questions, and development for those who are again developed, those getting benefit, and they said that local people will get job. अरे भाई कितना लोगों को तुमने नौकरी दिया, जॉब दिए हैं? Can you give the list? Yes, no, not a single. Those who are worker, they are from outsiders, not from your local. And those who are local, those who are displaced, anyone from Mukhiguda, Jayapatna and Kalahandi, those are rickshaw puller and daily wage labor, they are displaced peoples. Yes, they are cultivators, they were cultivator, but now the occupation changed. They are now daily wage labor or otherwise rickshaw puller. And who are getting the benefit of development? That's the questions. आमे मुंगोटे लिखिथिली ओडिया रे विकास करूची आदिवासी को शिकार. So what the development you are doing, you are killing the tribals, not destroying them, you are killing them. That the question we are raising that. Yes, so that how the development initiated by the government, and many times those who are raised the voice, like just 1 year before, anyone know Kumtimaji from Lanjigor's passed away. He is the leader of that Niyamgiri Suraksha Samiti. And then again Kasipur, they've already sold many leaders, but those who are trying to save the Jal, Jamin and Jungle, and starting from Pasupatinath to Tirupatinath, the forest area located we have and where the tribal is plenty. More than 80% people are from tribal. आदिवासी जहाँ है जंगल उसमें है, जहाँ जंगल है उसमें आदिवासी है, and they are interrelated. Puri, anyone seen the forest area? No, there are no tribals. Yes, the tribe is depend on because and the sustainable again. We are teaching them to sustainable. अरे भाई आदिवासी को क्यों सिखा रहे sustainable का? From generation to generation they are learning what the sustainable is that. Yes, and sorry. And you have to go there, you learn them what kind of sustainable system they are doing on that. Yes, many way, like the sabji mandi re dhano apankar nashto hi jauchi. Go there then tribal how the rice they have a preserve, you learn from them. Apan mananko dekhuthibe achar, they are making ovens and how they sustains. Yes, so many things we have to learn from them. Yes, and particular student, I think you have a field work and try to go to the tribal people, learn them what kind of development or what kind of sustainable development kind of they have. Yes, and again basically the Odisha, we have a major area of tribal pocket of KBK area, and where the many minerals we have and the government is trying to take that, and we are they are ready to destroy the tribals, and that the question we raise, not only academics, yes, and thanks to the civil society, honorable Supreme Court, yes, and because of that the Niyamgiri saved today. So and thanks to the civil society, the academicians, they raise the voice. Otherwise तुम आजकल movement में जाओगे ना, immediately they'll branded. अरे उसको कुछ नक्सलाइट का सपोर्ट है. Yes, maybe sympathizer with Naxalite, maybe sympathizer with terrorists. So different name they branded you. Yes, so you have to stand unitedly and fight for the forest, Jal, Jamin and Jungle. That's how the question we raise. So again, how the depend basically, the livelihood depend. We have prepare a PPT how they collecting natural resource from forest and they sustain for the livelihood. Yes, and you government, yes, XYZ, you are not able to provide job to that peoples. Yes, and many people they say, yeah, they are tax consumer. No, they are not tax consumer. Just remember that they are the nation building part of that society. So thank you everyone, sir, with limit time, and thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All the speakers have been fair to me and to the system, to the organization well. So I suggest another amendment. That amendment is this. I will take only two general questions in answer. And in case you have any specific question or any specific speaker, you can get hold of them at the lunch table. Okay, so that you can have more free time and face sharing, that has its own charm. So, therefore, if you can be kind, you can also skip these two questions. But in the witness of the things, let us have general questions which any of my panelists would be smart enough to handle it, otherwise I will. Thank you.
Yes, sir. It is not a question, it's a remark. Comment. My comment is in relation to the presentation presented by Professor Kora and Professor Gil. Both the presentations are interrelated, sir. Yes, sir. My comment is in relation to that. Professor Kora has invoked the middle part by citing other two binaries, assimilation and assimilation. But we can also view this middle part synonymous with the integrative approach that was started right from that was propounded by Nehru. And that very middle part or integrative approach that encapsulates this participation of civil society, particularly tribal members, into the electoral politics, both in conventional and non-conventional. That encourages, that middle class encourages. Secondly, that also encourages the participation of civil society members. And I can give you two examples that how this is challenged in contemporary times. In terms of this political participation, we can see politicians like Jagannath Sasa, who represents the state area, but he comes up with a proposal that that encourages to land transaction between the scheduled tribe and non-scheduled in the scheduled area, which was as well prohibited by the then government. That is one observation. Second thing is that, as I said, that encourages also participation in civil society members. We can see in the form of Niranjan BC. Once he calls for a protest, thousands of tribal people would join. But what is his fate now? You can all imagine. He is now a Rajya Sabha member. My concern is that everything is getting appropriated in the Bangladesh. The issues and challenges which is pertinent to the tribal society is not being seriously addressed, rather it is getting appropriated. So what would be the new propositions and new formula that can address to this particular thing?
No, second question. All questions are
I have a simple question. We are talking in travel are not development, they are not making mainstream development. Okay, we are telling that we do not want to disturb their systems. Okay, on the one part we are taking travels are the type of development, and on the other part we are talking we cannot disturb their traditional systems. So, what is the middle part? As academicians, You suggest so that we can bring the tribals in the spiral of development without affecting their traditions.
I'm just thinking if I can handle these two questions, I'll just walk like this and say, this is the middle. Probably, because the questions are too complicated. See, I'm aware about the integrated, the approach. Integrated approach is like mixing something from this side and something from this side. While the middle path is literally avoiding this, avoiding that. So I really don't know, I've never thought like that how the integrated approach is. I must say I am not able to completely answer that at the moment, but only I'll counterpose one thing. That suppose that I'll ask you one thing, that are we following the integrated approach? Because if we are following the integrated approach, then maybe that is not satisfactory. If we are
I just want to respond quickly. I'll go there.
No, you can be.
I'm audible, right? Sir, your question is raised in many seminars and conferences that we need development, at the same time we want their culture not to be hampered. This is a fact that development is obvious, this is inevitable. We cannot stop development as a state policy or national policy. It is obvious. But the thing is that to maximize the benefits to the indigenous communities in that developmental context. Kasipur is one of the case studies, the cases that where most of the tribal were displaced from Kasipur, but the literacy level was low. So it could happen that before the planning of any project, that area could be developed first, so that the local people can take the maximum benefits, but without any thought, without any kind of planning, suddenly the development projects come and the tribal become deprived of those benefits. So we cannot stop development, it is obvious and inevitable. But the state policies should be geared up to maximize the benefits to the indigenous community.
Oh, done. Done. Rest of the things I will do.
yes.
Yes. Because I give time to them, you give time to me. Friends, lest I forget, I must thank all my panelists for having cooperated with the system, with me, and they have been brilliant, all of them. If I am to ask who is best, who is the least, probably I will fail there in that sense. Deliberations were so important. But my role here is to stitch them up. And while trying to stitch the entire group of panelists and their presentations, I found that in the name of social capital, sustainable development, sustainable livelihood, indigenous knowledge system and its preservation, largely they tried to talk on three concepts in their interconnections: state, tribe, and development. But I'll add one more: state, society, tribe, and development as it's a sociological forum. And all these three concepts have their relevance in the broad context of the society and sociology in that particular sense. And the usual blame is always on again three. Who? the state not doing anything. Law more needed or ineffective. Then crony capitalism, as I was talking yesterday, the honorable in excess, corporatism. Correct. But the point is, yes, we can harp on them, no problem. State is always a problem because state is not an individual. State is not a problem. Because state is not a problem. State is not an individual. So what is more important about the state is this, that we can criticize the top-down approach as against the scope for bottom-up approach. And if at all, bottom-up approach is not taken care and ignored, and the top-down is being imposed, what is to be done in Niyamgiri, if at all is decided in Delhi, it will have its follies. So, therefore, what I am trying to, similarly, we are very mechanical in saying that the law is inadequate, ineffective. What are you going to do with the existing law? What have you been doing as social engineers? Because sociology is the science of social engineering. I'll give you one example. On 10th of November, one official amendment rule has been circulated by Government of Odisha, called Government of Odisha Panchayat Extension, as applicable to scheduled area rules. How many of you have seen this? It has been floated to public for comments, and the last date is 9th December. So while blaming the law, while blaming the state, let us try to introspect ourselves as to what is our contribution towards that. So,
about a minute, maybe. Multi-possible board is also. Just a news for you people. Kolandi University for the first time prepared a women cricket team, and they have become champion today, and they will play for university.
I want a photo uthari. Vice Chancellor handshake korchi.
Live them. Live them.
Photo उठे
छोटा काम एक संग यूनिवर्सिटी.
So, I'll take 2 minutes. Okay. So, as social engineers, what we have been doing, that has been floated for comments, and in this seminar, let us have a workshop, 1 hour on this document. I can send it to you, the organizing secretary, so that you can give your own comments, because tribal such and tribal in scheduled areas are to be differentiated from each other. And there our role becomes extremely important, and there are several stakes in this particular rule floated for public comments. Please try to see and do this. Coming to the question answer session. Middle part. What is the middle part? There should be no worry about it. We have more worries, lesser actions. Have courage, have strength, Middle class basically means what Dr. Kea has, Dr. Pura said, how much is the pain, how much is the gain. And I will invite again Robert K. Morton here, net balance of aggregate consequences is to be worked out. If pain exceeds the gain, then you are a failure. If gain exceeds the pain, then you are successful. So all actions, implementations, I was very happy. Someone was saying that formulation, implementation, and the last word he didn't use, although he meant it, was evaluation. You, probably outcome. He said outcome, evaluation. Isn't it? Outcome will come from evaluation. Let us not be worried about it. Let us contribute our might so that, evils be eradicated, roadblocks be cleared, obstacles be avoided, so that if not middle path, we can save ourselves from possible catastrophe or disaster in future. And I must thank each one of you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, making it within the time limit. And I know that we academicians, when we start, we have lots of things to share with the audience, but unfortunately, paucity of time, the time is limited. I would like to thank you all panelists, my seniors, my colleague Kupa Sindhu, and also friends that they made justified, I believe. And hopefully this engagement will be not today. We will make it time and again, and I welcome again and again to this Kalani University. And last request, may I request how many paper presenters are here? How many paper presenters? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. So I'd like to request straight away we will go for technical session. And after that we will go for lunch.
Maximum till 1:30.
Yes. So as our schedule will go at 1:30, so I will request the volunteers to clean this table. Where are the volunteers? खाली टेबल टा खाली होगा
आगे करें तो क्यों